Hello, guys and gals, me, Mudahar. I want to ask you all a very simple and honest question. Who do you think has more value to the world, a Discord moderator or a Reddit moderator? If your answer is, oh, Muda, this is a trick question, neither. Well, your answer is actually wrong today, ladies and gentlemen. And I love all my Discorders and Redditors, I guess I would say. But Discord was used in the last couple days to elect a leader for a country, okay? Insanity! Now, I brought this up to my parents, I brought this up to my significant other, I brought this up to my brother, and everyone said, you're crazy, until I showed them exactly what I'm about to show you guys right now. Now, you might go on the internet and see Nepal is currently being run via Discord after a Gen Z uprising. Now, I talked about this a few days ago, ladies and gentlemen, where, again, people were being killed for the censorship of social media. Now, in that video, I talked a lot about Nepal, right? And how basically overnight their government decided to censor social media services. And, people obviously retaliated. Now, I want to give you guys a little bit of context to this story that actually brings up to why protests occurred. So, because social media started to get banned, a lot of people in South Asia in general, not just Nepal, use social media. So you started to see young kids walking around with banners like Gen Z against corruption, and most importantly, nepotism, okay? No more Nepo babies. We demand fair opportunities. Now, in the research for this video, I found out that apparently in Nepal, 33% of their gross domestic product is from remittances. Now, if you don't know what a remittance is, basically it's, people who send money back home. Whether they have family, whether they have loved ones, whatever the reason may be, people send money to family back home. It just kind of happens, all right? It's happened for a long time. But when your gross domestic product is propped up, at least a third of it, by money coming in abroad, that's a pretty dangerous situation. It really turned out that for a lot of people in Nepal, there weren't a lot of jobs or opportunities for younger people. For a country where earning $1,400 a year is average, not a month, a year, just imagine for a minute, if you live in North America, what the fuck would you do if all you earned was $1,400 for the entire year, okay? That is not just below the poverty line, that is at the fucking core of the earth. So when these kids are earning that much a year, and they see some fucking Nepo kid with connections possibly driving around, even if it's like an entry-ass level Mercedes-Benz, okay? The fucking station wagon looking motherfucker that I see on the street sometimes. That, for these kids, is kind of like looking at a fucking Ferrari, okay? It's unattainable. When you see that level of wealth disparity, you're gonna get a little fucking mad. So I wanted to provide that context for the protests. And thankfully, there have been some YouTubers like We Hate the Cold where they actually showcase these things happening. These kids are out on the streets literally lighting the fucking government on fire because they're pissed, okay? The government tried to take away their social media so they couldn't fucking talk about their leaders or the people at the top, okay? Literally, the people at the top were just afraid of that level of criticism. When people start to think, when people start to wake up a little bit, that scares the elite at the top. It's pretty much the same for the entire world, right? So anyways, when that had occurred and people had started actually going out and protesting, unfortunately, in a protest, people started dying. Now, last time I looked at this, we were looking at a death count probably around 19. The death count, unfortunately, until the very end of this, was around 51 total deaths. So 51 people had to die for a country to actually experience some level of regime change. Now, whether this is effective in the future, I don't fucking know, okay? I really hope the best for everyone. That's how I live my life. I hope and pray for the best for literally every single person, okay? That's all I can hope for. Now, obviously, you might be like, that's a pretty fucking naive way to look at life. And I do tend to agree, okay? But that's just how I mentally cope with this kind of stuff. Anyways, how did this election occur? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at how the protests were happening, well, you can see very closely that, yeah, they were lighting shit up on fire. You had a whole bunch of people out on the streets. This makes almost any other protest that I've seen look like baby cakes. Now, you see that guy down there putting something up at the gate? Well, ladies and gentlemen, looking closer at what got put up on the gate is actually fucking hilarious. That, my friends, is the pirate flag. I forget exactly which one from fucking One Piece. The country is being run like a Warhammer 40K server at this point. So, of course, where did the Discord claim come in? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is a group called Protest Against Corruption. Our motto: spread proper, verified updates, protect protesters by sharing emergency resources, connect the youth and international supporters, and show the world what is happening. And you know what? Honestly, that's one of the reasons I want to make this video, because I think what I'm showing you guys is fucking crazy. And I'm actually kind of surprised. Like, I'm not a political commentator kind of guy. I don't really jump into this realm. I know I've kind of talked a bit more about it than usual, mostly because of the whole Epstein stuff. But for me, I'm kind of fucking surprised how some of my contemporaries, I guess a lot's going on, haven't discussed this, because this is literally a revolution caught on camera, caught on Discord. So the more you go down over here, you can see that they talk about September 9th, they talk about the protest days. You know, they literally tell you the key events on September 9th. Machine guns were deployed. Balan Shah joins protests. KP Ollie reigns. Regins. I think there's some spelling mistakes. I think what's happening is they're writing it in Nepali and then converting it into like English. So there's going to be some obvious issues that come out here, okay? And I'm not going to hold it against them. So of course, they say they're not affiliated with any party. And so when you scroll all the way to the top, they actually have a Discord link right here. So you can go to their Discord link, you can even accept the invite, but actually the invite doesn't work because they have it entirely on pause. Now my brother joined into this and it was pretty informal. You just had a whole bunch of people sort of talking and deliberating on Discord. I mean, it's crazy with some of the screenshots that have actually come out looking at it. It almost feels completely surreal. But of course, if you look at their vote, ladies and gentlemen, you can see right over here that moderator Jalebi, which is a delicious sweet emanating from South Asia. You can see the votes here. So out of 7,713 votes, and by the way, one of the big criticisms was because it was on fucking Discord with no like ID verification, anybody could have jumped in here. Dude, my brother could have jumped in here as a Canadian and voted for a Nepali interim president or prime minister. So you can see like 50% was this Sushila Karki. You got Harka Sampang, you've got Sagar Dako, you've got random Nepali, 26%, Mahavir Pund at 4%. So again, you know, I just want to say something. I didn't capture the screenshot, but this is how things happen. People went on Discord, they voted in this Discord, and then the name, which was Sushila Karki. So for anybody that doesn't know what this name is, I'm going to bring her up real quick. This is who she is. She's a 73-year-old judge that the entire country considers to be a good person, okay? This is a good person. This is the good. So they took her name, they went to the military, and they presented it, and she actually went through a swearing session. Well, she was sworn in, and now she's the interim prime minister, of course, obviously, until she can now host another vote. So for people to wonder, okay, is this the next prime minister? Well, technically she is. Her name was brought in. She's actually the first female prime minister, which is another fucking world-setting historical event for these people, okay? They vote via Discord. First female prime minister. I mean, if they're going to be teaching history in this world, and they're going to be this is going to be in the history books. This is how insane it is, okay? The 20s, for how fucked up they are, is so insane. So obviously, for the people that started the revolution, right, obviously, you know, it's either, you have two options. You either win the revolution, or the military comes in and butt-fucks you so hard up the ass you never even think about revolting to begin with. So the Nepalis revolted, and they won. I want to tell you how this sort of began, okay? People were pissed off about their conditions, rightfully so. You know, they could bitch and moan on X, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Blue Sky, whatever social media they chose to pick your poison. They wanted to complain. The government was like, oh no, we gotta take that away from you. And these guys got fucking pissed. Not only did they get pissed, but they got violently pissed. And unfortunately, as sad as it is to say, people did die during it. That's unfortunately what happens in uprisings, protests, any form of movement like this, by the way, especially something like this. When you've got the palace set on fire, you know that there have been lives lost. But ultimately, a lot of these younger kids moved their discussions to Discord. And to be fair with you, it's not shocking. You know, if you think about it, social media and what it is, like for all of its ills, it's the greatest way for people to converge together and have a discussion. And it times well with Discord. raising their server limits to like some crazy amount now. So now people can come together, discuss and converge about their government in real time. So much in real time that people from all over the world can really just jump in and observe this as well too. And they're doing votes in here, and those votes are being passed to the military, to the government, to create an interim government that will then hopefully give these people some change in the future. And you know what? I don't think I have much Nepali viewership, but I think this is a story the entire world can kind of learn from. It's goofy, but in a lot of ways, it's a positive story, because ultimately it seems a lot of positive, meaningful change has happened. Now, I don't know much about this judge, but if the youth is regarding her as a clean bill of health for the country, then I think things are going to go well. Okay, obviously she's got some challenges going forward. She's got to put back this country together. She's got to get rid of all this corruption. She's got to get rid of all this nonsense. But for once, it seems like Discord users, Discord as a platform was used to help elect change in a separate country, dude. Wow. When you really say things out loud, it like just it settles. It like, whoa. Okay, you gotta, whoa, crazy shit. But I wanna kind of show you guys before I leave something about like what was going on. So if you look closely into these Discord servers, right? This is again from an article where they're like, when gamers took the street. And I mean, that's the thing about this too, right? Like, obviously, I don't endorse everything that was on these Discord servers. It was used to present a name to the military, but there was a lot of stuff on these Discord groups that, could possibly be promoting that of violence, right? So again, this is a place where a lot of fed up individuals who clearly were passionate about their country came together and wanted some change. And of course, the way you go about that change, sometimes it really isn't all that clean, okay? You can go and look at this for yourself. And one of the reasons why I think their server is actually invite only at this moment in time is because, now that the dust is sort of settled, right? A lot of reporters, right, who are like, I want to see what the revolution looks like on Discord. Maybe there's going to be a lot of cleanup going on, a lot of let's keep the violence out of general chat, please. I agree a lot with what you're saying, pal, but we gotta stick to the rules. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of Janies that come in and clean shit up, but that's just my assumption for it. Look, at the end of the day, change has been enacted, and Discord is the primary tool. You can't take that away from them. God damn. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the Nepali protests, they are wild. So ladies and gentlemen, if you guys like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. I am out.